So, what day is it today?
Tuesday?
Wrong. It's NWA Day.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Attention, everyone. Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
Okay, let's party.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and each and every Tuesday I come to you, my hashtag NWA fam, to talk about all things National Wrestling Alliance. And brothers and sisters, we are here. We are here to talk NWA with you. So what's up, chat? What's going on? We have not a very full office yet. Oh, geez. He was on TikTok. Now he's on Facebook. Excuse me, YouTube. Alex Misery says, you can't escape me. Yikes. Alex, you're my guy, man. I don't need to escape you, right? I mean, you don't even know where I live in Nebraska. Or you know, I certainly don't live in Spokane, Washington. Or you know, anywhere nice. I live in Nebraska. Anyways, hey guys, it's another week of NWA wrestling, and I'm very excited to be here to talk to you about the NWA because we have some pretty cool things to talk about. Obviously, we are coming up on the Saw Win event that's taking place on October the 17th. That's the next real big event for the NWA. If you don't know about Saw Win traditionally is more like a Halloween-themed event for the NWA. Unfortunately, it films in October, but the matches don't usually come out until December, around Christmas time. So it's kind of a mind weird thing, and I didn't want to use the word I was thinking because you're expecting to have, NWA this annual Halloween event take place in Halloween, but we don't actually get to see it until much, much later. What's up, Mitt? How you doing, brother? And Brandon Davies in the house. Yeah. Well, Crown Jewels 8 a.m. for you folks on the East Coast, but us on the West, that's a 5 a.m. start. Soto's getting up early for that one. But I digress. We are talking. You don't know that. Alex, I don't know much, bro. I just know that you kind of give me the willies. And not the good kind of willies. The kind that makes me want to just stay here in Bismarck, North Dakota. Is it Bismarck? Is that a city in North Dakota? I don't know. But yeah, so we're talking NWA here. I know you guys have a lot of questions. It is very much jamming music, man. Halloween at Christmas time, which is like the nightmare before Christmas. There should be some promotional tie-in. Can we get Jack Skellington? Maybe, maybe Billy Corgan could smash Jack the Skellington's head in. I don't know. Good thing I'm a WWE guy, so Alex won't come looking for me. Yeah, lucky you. Things are crazy here in Bismarck, North Dakota, Nebraska. I don't know where I said, but it's not here. Anyways, that's enough of letting Alex Misery frighten me. Wiccan in Egypt. If I'm gonna move anywhere outside of the United States, I already have 3 locations, right? The first one is in Curacao. I went to Curacao last Thanksgiving, and it was awesome. I absolutely loved Curacao. It's next to Aruba. It's part of those Bahamian, not Bahamian. That's not the right word. Bahamas. Yeah, Bahamian. Yeah, it's in those islands near the Bahamas. Beautiful, beautiful island. Very great weather. It's like 85 degrees, every day of the week, every minute of the day. It just gets a lot more humid than others. So if I had to leave the United States, Curacao is very high on the list. very second close would be Scotland, as I got to stay in Edinburgh earlier this year and fell in love with that country, fell in love with that town. And if I had to leave the United States, that would be a very awesome place to live. Plus, I could cover pro wrestling in Scotland. Wouldn't have to give up the fun of talking about pro wrestling with you guys. And then the last place, which is probably the easiest for me to do, would be like moving to Cabo San Lucas. I just need to find someone to rent me a property. But Cabo is beautiful as well. And I would certainly up my Lucha Libre talk. That is for sure. That is 100% for certain. But let's talk a little bit about the NWA, of course, this week. There's already some pretty cool news. We know that, fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, I don't think we talked about this last week, but the NWA is bringing a lot of new faces to the company for Saw Win. First and foremost, we know that we're going to have Shotzi Blackheart make her NWA debut. I think I have a graphic for it. Do I have the graphic? Yeah, we got Shotzi in the house. So Shotzi, obviously, she's departed from the WWE, has been working dates with GCW, kind of been feuding with Matt Cardona on the Independents. Real life friend of Scarlett Bordeaux, Scarlett Bordeaux, Killer Cross's lady. I'm not saying that that's going to lead to anything, but how cool would that be if something like that came up? She will be there. Matt Cardona is making his return. Rich Swann will be there challenging for the World TV title. Hammerstone returns to take on Trevor Murdoch, the former World Tag Team Champion, two-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, former National Champion. And I'm assuming that this is going to be a match that has some implications for the world title picture very, very soon. The other match that was recently announced is we're going to have BFT and the Immortals. That will be a World Tag Team Championship match. Very much looking forward to that. We have seen BFT and the Immortals in the past. They had a very solid they had a really strong rivalry in 2024, which led to the two teams facing off both at Saw Win 2, and at the 76th anniversary show. So we'll get some good wrestling out of that. And they also announced that Tom Latimer will be defending the 10 pounds of gold against Thrillbilly Silas Mason. Now, we know Silas Mason won the title at the 77th anniversary show in New York. So we already know that the title has changed hands, but the NWA, and this is one of those things that kills me about the NWA, is that they don't acknowledge a title change until it's happened on TV. And I don't think I think that's I get why they do it. Let's talk about that for a minute. I get why they do it, because the NWA as it is now isn't really a touring company, and it really isn't a TV company. It's kind of like a part-time pro wrestling promotion. And I hate the fact that that's what it has become. I hate the fact that that's what the NWA is. However, they are trying to change that. And you see that they're doing more live dates. They're doing more. I didn't see that. But hold on. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Okay, we're all good. Shogain, what's up, man? And so, yeah, with 100% certainty, they haven't quite figured out. I said 100% certainty, and then I said they haven't figured out. The NWA is still trying to find its own identity, and we have to understand too that under Billy Corgan's leadership, ownership, drive, whatever, they've been in business for about 6 years now. Is that right? No, it's not right. It's been about 8 years. The NWA was bought in 2017. Billy Corgan enacted a 20-year plan. At first, they removed all the titles except for the World Heavyweight Championship. Billy partnered with Ring of Honor, partnered with what would become AEW, and had some really good, exciting matches. Of course, the 2019 Crockett Cup, which was partnered with Ring of Honor, the 2018 NWA 70th anniversary show. They did a lot of fun stuff. And then they started producing TV about 6 years ago in Atlanta at the PBS studios. It'll be 6 years later this month. They were building up a lot of cool things, but the NWA still hadn't determined its identity. And they were running these shows, but it was still kind of like a part-time pro wrestling promotion. So it never really got to where it needed to be. Of course, the pandemic hit hard, and a lot of wrestling companies suffered. Hell, it put Ring of Honor out of business. The NWA took a knee. They went dark for half the year, and it almost looked like the NWA might not come back. So we're all just kind of lucky to have the NWA at this point. And there's been things that was up and it was down, and the content quality was good, and then it was bad. Even I had this conversation with Big Chris Dog offline, and one of the things he mentioned to me was that, why isn't the NWA on TV? They're on Roku, but why aren't they on Paramount? Roku is the Roku Sports and Wrestling Central. I guess Wrestling Central is owned by Paramount. Why aren't they on the Paramount channel? And the answer is it's not. The NWA is not ready for that. They're not there yet. And I feel like they can get there, and I feel like they're getting close with the matches that they've been producing lately. The quality of the matches, the quality of the production. The biggest drawback for the NWA is this gap between when they film and when the matches air. But they're still a part-time pro wrestling company. They don't have a full-time, group of directors and producers making content for the NWA, like WWE, like AEW. There's a handful of people that make this machine go. So until that changes, this is how it's going to be. And unfortunately, there's a drawback of, long turnaround time to getting stuff filmed, to stuff making the way on TV. And that can change very easily by shoring up production times. They could stop recording as much content until they're, like a month out, as opposed to 2 or 3 months out, and then start religiously filming content to get caught, month to month, much like the United Wrestling Network and some of the other companies do. But with that being said, the NWA, I feel like, still has a very good opportunity to start gaining some momentum. And this big event at Saw Win 3 that's going to be taking place at Center Stage Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, they're already starting to build towards that. And then even the most recent announcement, it almost kind of feels like they're listening to the show a little bit. It feels like we're being heard, because the next team that they announced for Saw Win, I mean, of course, we've got TVMA, the World Tag Team Champions, but they haven't announced an opponent yet for them. But we do have the returning Marty Bell and Allison Kay, also known as the Hex, making their way to the NWA. And they were the first NWA Women's Tag Team Champions. They ended up losing those titles to Ella Envy and Kenzie Page, and then kind of disappeared into the background. Marty Bell has still been working regularly with the NWA. She's currently the NWA Midwest Exodus Pro Women's Champion. It's a mouthful. And who knows, maybe this is a sign of the Hex coming back to the NWA is a sign of more tag team wrestling coming to the NWA, a greater women's division. That's at least what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping that we get to see. So, Saw Win is really starting to shape up for the NWA. We know that they filmed TV a few weeks ago, but we don't know the results. I have not seen any spoilers for that show, and I have looked. So the fans are doing a good job of keeping the NWA hush-hush, much to my chagrin, because I'd like to know what's going on. Oh, excuse me so much. Oh. Jammin' Music Man says, I'm happy to see the NWA returning to the PBS studios in Atlanta. It makes me nostalgic for the early days of POWERRR back in 2019. Yeah, I got to be at the very first taping, and actually have I'm working on a little video that that kind of encapsulated those few days. I mean, it was crazy because we were told, hey, there's going to be a wrestling show on a Tuesday night for an upcoming project that the NWA is going to do, but we didn't have a name. We didn't have anything yet. And in fact, for those of us who flew into the show, we knew that they were doing a press conference where they did announce the new program. They did announce, the principals involved. We had, during the press conference back then, Allison Kay was the women's world champion. She was able to speak up. Nick Aldis had something to say. The tag team champions at the time were the wild card, which was Royce Isaacs and Tom Latimer. They got to speak up. And it was a kind of a cool little event to introduce the media to the NWA. But obviously things didn't pan out the way that the NWA was hoping for. Again, you could blame COVID for a lot of that, but the NWA is starting to get their footing underneath them again. In this event at Center Stage in Atlanta, I think it's long overdue. Center Stage has been one of these hallowed, sacred grounds for pro wrestling, where WCW used to film a lot of their Saturday nights there. We've seen MLW film there. We've seen ROH film there. United Wrestling Network has been there. And finally, the NWA will be filming at Center Stage, which is a great venue for pro wrestling. I got to be there back when the United Wrestling Network ran their event in Atlanta a couple of years ago as well. So I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be a great spot for Saul Wynn. And I feel like there's a lot of variables that we still don't know what's going to happen. Like, card's always subject to change. We could see some different matches going into Saul Wynn. But on the surface right now, with this talent that has been announced, with some of the other wrestlers who are still there, we don't have an option for yet. We haven't seen matches yet for. I really feel like this could be another solid event for the NWA, and it gets them that one step closer to being on TV. Now, Willie Bowen has his usual Tyrus joke of the day. I feel like this might be a retread, Willie, but we're going to throw it up anyways. Hey, J. Cal, Tyrus will be in the new Godzilla movie. He'll be playing one of the buildings that gets destroyed by Godzilla in Tokyo. For those of you who aren't aware, Tyrus is a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. You might be familiar with Tyrus as the Funkasaurus Brodish Clay, who worked for the WWE, but more commonly can be seen on Gutfeld and Friends on Fox News. Somebody better call his mama, because I can't get him in focus, but there it is. Anyways, I'm glad that Tyrus is doing what he's doing, because I'd rather him be on Fox News and not on my television. Patrick Moore says, I'd like to be able to follow the territories more comprehensively. What can NWA do to accomplish this? Well, I mean, look, I think we've all said it in the Discord already, Patrick. I think you're on the Discord. I could be mistaken. But the simplest thing is there is this weekly program that they're now producing on YouTube, NWA Into the Fire, and they start showing some of the past matches, unreleased content, or just matches from yesteryear, along with promos and some video packages that highlight this week's Power. I feel like the most incredible thing to do with that time is to start showcasing some of the territories. It would be very easy to do. It wouldn't be all that cost prohibitive, because the match is already being filmed. And all it would be is, instead of throwing an NWA match in there, is throwing one of the matches from the territories. Give these guys an opportunity to speak, talk about the NWA, put the NWA put over what they're trying to do. And that would be very, very simple. But then there's also the idea that there used to be the NWA USA program. Again, a lot of these matches that are unnecessary that were filmed, that, you still want to use those matches, but at the same time, you could advance storyline by getting to what was important at those TV tapings event, get you back there. Chris, we were just talking about you a minute ago. But yeah, ultimately, I feel like the best way to get the territories over is to spotlight them, and the NWA hasn't done that yet, so I'm not holding my breath for that. Chris Gallego says, I wasn't happy WWE rushed that ESPN deal. They should have waited till December or January of next year. WWE should have stayed with Peacock. WWE always rush things like they should have waited till next year. Yeah, I mean, sure. I understand that. Right now we're talking NWA though, Chris. So I get the frustration. Again, I haven't plopped down anything for ESPN, nor do I feel like I'm going to. If you're a fan of the WWE content and you want to keep up with it, there's other sources. Of course, NXT is over the air free on the CW, almost a WB. You can watch, I believe you can watch the Evolve product on Pluto. So there's a lot of content that the WWE produces on YouTube. There are free applications that you can to watch that you can still follow WWE content. But, that's neither here nor there. Chris brings up the fact that the PWI 500 has dropped, and there are some NWA guys listed. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that on Thursday. We're going to go through the list and react to some of the wrestlers from the National Wrestling Alliance who did get that recognition. I think it's great. Look, the PWI 500, first and foremost, it's a worked list. It's almost like, do you want to be on the list? Then you got to try to be on the list. It's not one of these deals where, they don't actively pursue wrestling. Sorry, guys. They aren't. They don't necessarily go find content wrestlers to cover. The wrestlers are supposed to submit to the PWI their repertoire, their resume, what they're known for. And then the WWE puts that list together. I don't necessarily, I said WWE, Pro Wrestling Illustrated puts that list together. It's not like, it is a popularity contest to an extent, and it does, measure people based on what they've contributed to the companies that they work for. But at the end of the day, PWI makes money selling magazines by putting names like Roman Reigns and John Cena and Rob Van Dam, okay, that might be dated, on the cover, as opposed to guys like Scorpio Sky or Thrillbilly Silas Mason. So, I don't put a ton of stock in those lists. It's cool, and I'm glad that the NWA wrestlers got recognized, but at the end of the day, the list is a worked list. It's not anything in official capacity. Willie says Power should highlight and feature matches from the territories on Power. Look, I would be happy if they could just do that for the YouTube programming that they're creating. I think you're asking too much for the NWA to showcase the territories on Power when they don't even showcase the territories on their own YouTube channel. Chris Gallegos, you think that James Mitchell is the devil of Antichrist? I don't even know what that means, Chris. I'm not trying to be glib. Don't forget to like, share after the stream, leave a comment. It helps the algorithm. I do appreciate it every time you guys share this content. It does help the channel grow. It gets seen by more people. Chris, you're making some accusations that I don't know that I can support you on, because I don't know what Father Mitchell does when he's not on television. I only know Father Mitchell from seeing him on Power and previously in TNA Wrestling. So, I don't know. I don't know. You say having the glory days come back. Hey, dog, thanks for the heart me and the popular. I appreciate that. The glory days, wrestling is subjective, Chris. So when you say have the glory days come back, what do you mean? How do we get to the glory days? What are the glory days? Are you talking about Wildfire Tommy Rich popping the territory by winning the title? We're talking about Nature Boy Ric Flair, who took the title all over the world, 350 dates in a 365 days a year, that sort of thing. I watched Georgia Championship Wrestling in the early 80s, then AEW Dynamite on TBS. Chris, okay. What frustrated me about the territories is that I find it hard to find. I couldn't watch TSW yesterday, and they already took it down. And WLW hasn't posted anything up. Yeah, Patrick, I can't speak to what the territory is doing and why they do it. I don't really understand it myself. I mean, I feel like if we're talking about the NWA, what's the point of being a member of the territory if you're not going to promote, if you're not going to produce events? Now they're doing live wrestling events all the time. Like you can go to Cage Match right now, not Cage Match, excuse me. Go to the NWA website right now. And if you go to live events right now on the NWA website, I mean, we got Saul Wynn, there's some dates coming up in Queens, New York, and in Melville, New York, and then Chicago, and then Sevierville and Troy, Missouri. You know, for WLW, their next date is October 4th. And then JCP has their next event, the Territory, which is October 10th. And then Hexodus is October 11th. And then they have Texas Style Wrestling is going to be taping October the 11th in Forney. There's NWA events in Florida, St. Petersburg with what promotion is that? Fight the World. So, I mean, there's content being created, but as far as when they showcase and how they showcase it, it's not really, you know, it's kind of what they do. Dog, thanks for all the love. Tell Dr. Lawrence Zirconium I appreciate it. Chris says he watches a lot of old school wrestling on YouTube. Cool, man. I wish Kenzie Page could lose the women's world title tonight. Tiffany Nieves. Tiffany Nieves should be NWA Women's World Champion by now. Well, Chris, Tiffany isn't even in the title picture for the World's Heavyweight or the Women's Championship. Currently, Tiffany Nieves is your television champion and one half of the tag team champion. So I don't think you're going to see Tiffany Nieves get an opportunity to wrestle for the Women's World Championship anytime soon. Cage Match is completely out of date. Yeah, well, I mean, Patrick, again, Cage Match is fan submitted. It's not like there's a guy working for Cage Match who's like, oh, well, what's going on in the NWA? Somebody should be submitting those matches to Cage Match. You know, they don't have the means to go and get results for every single show. Somebody from the NWA should be sending the results to Cage Match if they want to be, up to date. And the thing is, it's like the NWA doesn't even know what it wants, to be quite honest. It's just, if you look at the NWA, I mean, even on the website for Riot Fest, the tickets that were on sale for the Chicago Riot Fest, which is a music festival that the NWA had matches at, I mean, they were on the website, it listed Silas Mason as world champion, but everywhere else listed Tom Latimer still champion. I mean, they can't even get that right. And if you guys expect them to be on top of it more, I mean, I think you're expecting too much. They're just not there. They're just not there. There's only so many bodies that they have running pushing these buttons to get, the television on TV and social media posts. And I mean, I guess we're lucky to even have that. It gets boring having the same woman holding the NWA Women's World Title for so long. I hope Tiffany Nieves gets it. Chris, I don't know. Like we've talked about the spoilers on this show. We've talked about a lot of the spoilers. And we know that. I mean, look, Natalia Markova won the title at the 77th anniversary show. Kenzie Page held the title for almost 2 years before losing to Natalia Markova at the 77th anniversary show. But the NWA won't recognize that until those matches air on Roku Sports. So it's kind of like we're in a stall pattern waiting for things to change. If you were hoping that Tiffany Nieves was going to get an opportunity to wrestle for that women's title, I'm sure it'll happen at some point, but she's currently the TV champion and the women's tag team champion. And I think that's enough to keep her hands full. Wrestle Rant says, I'm sorry, I'm not that excited that Pope is back. That's a very interesting, Wrestle Rant. Like, that's one of the things I am excited about that the NWA is doing. And as our friend Dog Pro Wrestling just pointed out on TikTok, that the Pro Wrestling Illustrated, if you pick up one of the magazines, they actually show the rankings as they are with the current champions, not what has only been televised. So they're treating it like it's a live touring brand as opposed to just a television show. Chris, I don't know what you're talking about with a dog collar match. You're all over the place, Chris. It's kind of hard to follow you right now. Wrestle Rant says that the Pope's mic work doesn't do much for you, which again, wrestling is super subjective, and everyone's allowed to feel about pro wrestling the way they feel about it. I actually really like the Pope on the mic. I know he does channel Dusty Rhodes. I know he's trying to be a modern day Dusty Rhodes, but I think it's great. I love to hear the Pope cut a promo and Mr. Be like Hog, and like, I don't know. I'm a big Pope guy. I'm excited for it. I don't know what capacity he's going to have in the NWA in 2025. In 2019, he was trying to set up his own full horseman. In 2020, he became television champion. In 2021, he was phased out of the product completely. They kind of put him in a tag team with for a short time with JTG and the Mims, and later JTG. And although they were fun tag teams, they never really got much momentum behind him. Then he disappeared. It's not like the Pope stopped wrestling. He did matches with United Wrestling Network. He's still doing matches with All Caribbean Wrestling. And I think it's going to be very, very fun to watch. We'll see what he does. Again, I'm not holding my breath for it. Pope's job is to put over Mims, Silas, and Carson Drake. That's interesting, Sean. I don't hate that idea either. If we're putting Pope in a position where he can help elevate talent, that's 100% how you can use him. I feel like the Pope is so polished that you could put him in a title picture right now. And I don't think it's going to hurt anybody. I think the NWA would benefit from the Pope being a champion in the NWA. But even if he doesn't win a title, I feel like just putting over some of the younger guys will help them be better. And honestly, just working with the Pope. The thing about the NWA is that we're in a bubble, and there's very few talents that come into the NWA and leave. We'll see guys like, we mentioned over on TikTok, they mentioned Mike Mondo, right? Mike Mondo, I wasn't expecting Mike Mondo to be a regular part of the NWA when he made his debut, but lo and behold, he's still here. But guys, like we've seen the NWA phase out guys over the years too. Like where's the last time you saw Magic Jake Dumas? And I'm not clamoring for Jake Dumas to have be back on my television, but I'm just saying he was phased out. They do that. They bring talent in, like Bestia, Mecha Wolf. They were the former tag team champions. Bestia left the company, and then they phased Mecha Wolf out. I'd love to see those guys return in some capacity, but now that AAA and the WWE have this agreement in terms of ownership, and Mecha Wolf is appearing on some of the top AAA cards, I doubt we'll see him in the NWA again. I mean, Mecha Wolf has a T-shirt for sale on the WWE Shop Zone. To me, that's pretty cool. Let's see. I just want the NWA to be successful as well as the territories. What do they need to do for that? Well, I mean, again, this is all subjective, right? Like for me, if you're asking what I would do to make the NWA more successful, great question. Have wonderful answers for you. The first thing I'm going to do is cut TV turnaround time. They can't film something in May and expect me to be still excited about that in September. That just doesn't make sense. What the NWA needs to do is shore those TV turnaround times. I would also, for me to be excited about the NWA, more excited about the NWA, is I would do more premium live events that are either available for pay-per-view or just make them available. Like they taped the 77th anniversary show back in August. I think it was August, maybe it was September. Now I don't remember. But only half of that show needed to be filmed for TV. The other half of that show should have been made available live on a YouTube or maybe Wrestling Central, where fans could have watched instantly. The same thing with the Crockett Cup. And we found out later that Natalia's match was Natty Neidhart's match was never even filmed for TV. But having that match on that card, like they should have had only the tournament be part of the actual TV. And those live matches should have been available live for a viewing audience to watch. Those are two things that I would do. Obviously, I feel like the talent levels there, some of the booking decisions are questionable, but like I feel like because that huge delay from we filmed here and now it's on TV 3 months later, I feel like that hurts people's interest in the product. You know, that Natty match, when it happened, everyone was talking about it. It never even aired. Anyways, Chris, you do know that it's not 1980, though. You can say that you want the NWA to be number 2, but what have they done to be number 2? What have they even done? They're not number 2. They're not even number 5. If you're going to rank companies in North America, or if you're going to rank companies just in the United States, they're not even number 5, man. You know, obviously WWE, AEW kind of dominate things, but you've also got TNA Wrestling, you've got MLW. You know, where does the NWA fit in behind those companies? Like they are not in competition with the WWE. They're not ready to be number 2. Chris, you're going back like almost 20 years. 2000, what was it, 2010? Why was NWA Wrestling Showcase canceled on Colors TV? Instead, they were giving that show from India, Pandesi Prime Time, full of people from India. Chris, how am I supposed to respond to this? Colors was a multicultural television station on satellite dish, on the Dish Network. It had no connection to pro wrestling other than they just opted to show the NWA for whatever reason. We were lucky to have the NWA at all on that platform, which is wild to me. Wrestle Rent says micro wrestling above the NWA. I mean, you might not be far off from that. There are a lot of micro wrestling promotions, but there's one specifically that does live events all over the United States and has a residency in Las Vegas. That to me is a lot more telling than what the NWA has been able to accomplish yet. I agree with you there. I just want to be able to enjoy NWA and the territories in full. Patrick, I do too. You have to remember the territories need to stop hoping that the NWA is going to showcase them and find their own platform to be showcased. Joe Kazana is on YouTube. WLW is on YouTube. NWA New Mexico, I believe, has YouTube. Chicago is not on TV as far as I can tell. Dog wrestling. Micro wrestling has an advantage. They run short shows, but don't. You know, a lot of what the Crossfire does is on Title Match Network. NWA Texas is supposed to be starting on the channel in Texas. I don't know how to make it more fluid or how to get things going. I just feel like if you are NWA territory, you need to quit hoping the NWA is going to come help you and just do it yourself. Which again probably proves that most of the territories that are in the NWA gain more benefit just being associated with the NWA than vice versa. I'm excited that Markova is going to be champion in the NWA, but I hope she doesn't hold the Burke for too long, in my opinion. Interesting, Noob. That's an interesting thing for you to say, because I know you're a huge Markova fan. What's your, if Noob, in short words, what would you do with the Burke if not Markova? King Shaw Mega says if the NWA had WoW ambition to promote their product. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it too. Like WoW, like look at their social media. Look at the NWA social media versus everyone else's. You know, I see some of the talent post things more than what the NWA posts. So this week for Power, we have some matches already announced. Of course, these matches were filmed back. And that's a question posed to Noob from Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Noob, should Markova have multiple shorter reigns? I don't know if Noob's still in the chat, but Noob, that I would love to hear your answer. Do you think Markova would benefit from having multiple short reigns as champion? But this week's Power is, again, airs tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You could also watch on demand right now if you choose to on when you go to the Roku app. Excuse me. Sorry. We have the Rewind Society makes their return to the NWA as they take on the Country Gentlemen, the team of AJ Kazana, Casey Kazana, Papa Joe Kazana as Country Gentlemen. We haven't seen a lot of Country Gentlemen in the ring on TV as of late. The Rewind Society is a product, I believe, of the FTW Wrestling School. So seeing them show up in the NWA, I feel like that's a good spot for them to be as an enhancement on Power. I feel like, until they're willing to do more of the territory legwork, that's a good spot for them to be in. Country Gentlemen need to get some wins under their belt. Their relevancy is starting to fade a little bit. I love AJ Kazana. Would like to see him maybe break off and do something as a singles competitor with Casey finding his own way as well. But until that happens, I would like to just see Country Gentlemen get some wins underneath their, get some wins under their belt before they can go and challenge for the tag titles that are currently held by the Immortals. Willie says, let's get to what Noob said. Noob said she should hold the NWA Women's title for at least 6 or 9 months. Okay. That sounds like kind of a long reign to me, but, I guess 6 or 9 months compared to what Kenzie held the belt for and subsequently what Camille held the title for, 6 or 9 months isn't that long at all. Let's see. Willie says, I love Markova. She's very marketable. She's very talented. I don't think she delivers the best promos, but I feel like she could be, she could be a linchpin for something bigger in the NWA. The women's division certainly needs a change up, and that's kind of what we're getting now with Markova as champion. You got Tiffany Nieves as the champ holding the TV and tag titles. I would like to see that break off too. I'd like to see more like a different TV champion and perhaps Nieves and Rossi focus on those women tag team titles because, again, I feel like they're such a great pairing. I don't know how long Tiffany Nieves is going to be in the NWA. I don't know how long Valentina Rossi is going to be in the NWA. And if history dictates anything in the National Wrestling Alliance, they might not be around for very long. So get the best you can out of them, get the most you can out of them before they leave. Dave Valentine says CEP to invade NWA at NWA Power. Well, look, we know, David, that CEP, the promotion aside, does a lot of work with the NWA, and we see that when the NWA does their events in New York. They're doing the NWA on tour on September the 26th and September the 27th, which is, I guess, in a week. No, in 3 days. So this weekend, Friday, Saturday, we've got the NWA with Joe Ocasio, Tom Latimer, Bryan Idol, Natalia Markova, Kylie Page, and Wrecking Ball Legursky, the Slime Balls, and they're running it back the next day too. So yeah, I mean, CEP, Championship Entertainment Productions are part of both nights. So yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense that David, I mean, I don't think they're going to invade on TV, but having CEP be a partner of the NWA, especially in the Northeast, makes a lot of sense. How long was Jazz women's champ? Jazz held the title for a long time too, but you have to understand part of her holding that title, she was champion when the belt wasn't even acknowledged by the NWA. Remember, they kind of froze the titles and the lineage of all the titles when Billy Corgan purchased the NWA Like they just kind of shut everything down. They brought Jazz back in. Jazz had one title defense against Penelope Ford at the 70th anniversary show. And then Jazz had quietly retired. Like retired's not the word, but she gave up the women's title. And then that was later Allison Kay took on Santana Garrett for the vacant championship at the Crockett Cup in 2019. David, we all know that the NWA in Vince McMahon, you keep calling him Terrell McMahon, Vince Kennedy McMahon, who used to own the World Wrestling Entertainment, they're not going to be working together, and that's crazy talk. Patrick Moore says, I'm not familiar with CEP. CEP is a wrestling promotion in the Northeast, Championship Entertainment Productions. They're doing a lot of, it's basically like in New York. They do wrestling shows in New York, and I think I think just New York. I could be wrong, but I think it's just New York. And they've done a lot of co-promotion with the NWA over the last few years. I think that's why we see guys like Joe Ocasio in the NWA. It's kind of like we'll work together. You promote me and I'll promote you type thing. But let's get to the matches that are happening tonight. Again, we mentioned the Rewind Society taking on the Country Gentlemen. We also know that we'll be hearing from PB Smooth and EC3, the Holy Grail. I'm not sure if they're actually going to have a match or just appear on television. Then we have two very big title fights. We have Luke Curtis challenging Alex Taylor for the NWA World's Junior Heavyweight title. Alex Taylor recently surpassed Tiger Mask number 4 as the 10th longest reigning NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. Taylor has beaten everybody. He's beaten everyone in the division. I don't know what left there is for him to prove. If the NWA is looking for more junior heavyweights, there's a whole bevy, a whole wealth of junior heavyweights on the program already. We just need to give these guys opportunities. Alex Misery is on the top of my list. Misery versus Taylor, I think, would be a lot of fun. And we also have a TV title defense match. Bryan Idol, the needle mover, defending his television title against Daisy Kills. We haven't seen Daisy Kills do much as a singles competitor in the NWA. He's mostly been focusing on the tag team with Talos. However, Talos has been out of the rotation. He's been working in I believe All Japan Pro Wrestling. We haven't seen Talos in the NWA for a minute. We know that he was at Crockett Cup. Talos and Daisy Kill seem to have some falling out at the Crockett Cup. Talos goes to All Japan. Daisy still references him on television. They may reunite down the road, but as of right now, I don't foresee them working together anytime soon. David, I am saying that Billy and Vince working together is crazy talk, because in what world, if Vince wanted to get back into wrestling, David, if Vince wanted to get back into wrestling, why would he go into business with Billy Corgan? What would be the benefit of that? Like, what does the NWA bring to Vince McMahon that no other wrestling promotion could bring to them? On top of that, what's in it for Billy? Why would Billy risk anything to associate with Vince? It's not about money for Billy Corgan. I think you guys might have this misunderstanding that Billy is just afraid to spend money. No, he's only going to spend money on things that make sense to him. But the way that the NWA is booked is how the NWA is booked. That's what Billy's whole thing is this is his baby. He's running the show the way he wants to run it. The NWA is the way it is because he wants it to be that way. So changing subjects, getting back to what Patrick is asking, I'm confused about how the purchase came about. Did Billy Corgan kill the territories that were there, or did he just let the contracts lapse? Great question. I'm perfectly capable of answering this for you, Patrick. When Bruce Tharp was in charge of the NWA, Bruce Tharp changed the way that the NWA worked on a fundamental level. Prior to Bruce Tharp gaining ownership of the National Wrestling Alliance, the National Wrestling Alliance was a co-op. It was a group of wrestling promoters working together. They elected an executive director who at the time was not Bruce Tharp, but Bob Trowbridge. Bob Trowbridge was the executive director elected by the NWA Board of Directors. The NWA Board of Directors had to be elected. And this was very, very, like, just kind of wild setup here. The Board of Directors had elected the director, who was Bob Trowbridge. And then the members of the NWA, who were like Dave Marquez, Antonio Inoki was a member. Ken Taylor was a member. Mike Porter was a member. Sometimes Joe Price was a member. At some points, Fred Rubenstein was a member. At some points, Howard Brody was a member. At some points, there was a lot of guys who were all, part of this NWA. Jim Miller. There's a bunch more who I can't think of. Dave Republic. There was a lot of NWA members that created this territory system. We say territory, but really it was just members and associates and affiliates. And for example, in California, Dave Marquez was the member of record. At that time, he wasn't producing Championship Wrestling from Hollywood just yet. So his NWA matches were actually NWA sanctioned matches for affiliates and associates. Those affiliates were Mach 1 Wrestling, Empire Wrestling Federation, SoCal Pro, Alternative Wrestling Show, Pro Wrestling Revolution, and various other promotions from time to time. They made up Dave Marquez's associates. Dave Marquez was the member. But we weren't calling these territories. At that point, really, the territory was just where you were sanctioned to run your NWA events. So if Dave Marquez was doing live events in Texas, he had to get approval from guys like Ken Taylor to enter that territory. And usually that meant somebody was getting paid and some guys were getting, local guys were getting opportunities on those cards. That was it. When Bruce Tharp became owner of the NWA, it went from a group of owners to a single owner. It was Bruce Tharp's International Wrestling Corporation that owned the NWA. That was made up of 3 partners, but essentially it was one entity that owned the entire National Wrestling Alliance. They changed the members format to a territory format. So you were licensing the NWA name. You did not own the NWA. You did not own a part of the NWA. You were a licensee. So much like someone who decides they want to open up a McDonald's, you are not McDonald's. You are a license. You own a license to operate as McDonald's. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's basically what it was. So the whole new territory system that was set up by Bruce was really just a license agreement for these other promotions. And it was a money grab. He was letting anybody join the NWA if they paid the licensing fee, which pissed a lot of people off because in 2017, when the NWA was sold to Billy Corgan, those licenses were not automatically scheduled to renew. And once Billy Corgan took ownership of the NWA, he said through other people, he said, hey, look, October is the end of the fiscal era for the NWA as it was. All of those licenses were set to expire in October, and he simply just did not renew any of them. And it wasn't like, screw you guys, I don't want to support you anymore. It was like, nope, we're just doing it different. The NWA is going to be different now. So instead of it being a sanctioning body that had different territories, it became a singular promotion with a singular owner. So that's essentially what the NWA became. And when Billy Corgan bought the NWA, he didn't buy out all the members. He didn't buy out all the licenses. He didn't kill all the licenses. They just didn't renew them. And they let that part of the business go away. And then in, with the last few years, first with FTW, kind of, then, Joe Kazana Promotions, Exodus Pro, Crossfire, all these promotions became territories. They're not members. They're not associates. They're territories. They're part of the NWA because Billy's allowing them to be a part of the NWA. I don't know if there's any kind of financials shared between the companies. We just know that that's how it's separate. So, in other words, Billy didn't kill the territories when he came to the NWA. When he bought the NWA, he simply just didn't renew them. I hope that answered your question. And Patrick, yeah, the NWA was always a co-op. It was, the biggest member of the NWA in the 80s, 70s was, Jim Crockett Promotions. Everyone knows Jim Crockett Promotions because of TBS and being, the home for Ric Flair. So that was a promotion that got a lot of love. But you got to remember, like, Portland was a part of the NWA up until 1992. They never left the NWA until 92, and Portland actually was part of the NWA before Jim Crockett Promotions. So, like Don Owens in Portland, there was a lot of other members I can't think of right now. But even during the end of the WCW relationship with the NWA, you had Dennis Corluzzo promoting NWA events in New Jersey. Howard Brody was a part of the NWA down in Florida. So there was always NWA members that were still part of the NWA up until obviously when Bruce Tharp took over. All of that to say is that the NWA has certainly evolved over the last few years, and things have taken a churn for the better or for the worse, depending on your outlook. Tonight's Power, again, will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific on Roku Sports. You can watch this and all the other NWA products on Wrestling Central. Excuse me. You can watch those. You can watch Power. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. You can watch Power on Roku Sports, either on demand or when it airs on the program, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, and then they do a replay at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for that, or you can watch it on demand on the Roku app where they normally air. Willie, I'm not really leaving out the NWA in SoCal. I mean, I did talk about it. I talked about Marquez, and then, of course, even before Marquez, there was Car Consumer Pro Wrestling in the early 2000s. There was another promotion up north that was, I think, PCW. They were an NWA affiliate for a while. And then, of course, NWA Hollywood, the LaBelle family. They were running at the Grand Olympic for many, many years. Let's see. Thanks for sharing the live, OTC1. What made WCW leave the NWA? I always heard they had a problem with putting the belt on Rick Rude. Essentially, the NWA left. Excuse me. The WCW left for the same reason everyone else leaves the NWA. They outgrew it. I think I said that wrong. Let me try that again. Rewind. World Championship Wrestling left the NWA because at this point, the NWA wasn't adding value to what the WCW was doing and had expected to be treated like a partner with the company. They didn't want Rick Rude to be champion. They wanted titles changes to be cleared by them first. And WCW's like, why are we hanging on to the NWA? What value are they bringing to us? When you look at and it was the same, like, look, I think it was in 92, EMLL left the NWA and became CMLL in Mexico because they didn't need the NWA anymore. New Japan Pro Wrestling and WCW both left the NWA in 1993 because, again, what value was the NWA bringing to them at this point? WCW outgrew the NWA's benefit. Dennis Corluzzo still enjoyed working for the NWA, still enjoyed being a member, and there was even that partnership with ECW for a short time. But remember, ECW was not a part of the NWA. It was promoting alongside with the NWA. Sorry, guys. I don't think Hood Slam fits with the NWA's current direction. I don't think Hood Slam would ever have fit with the NWA's current direction. Hood Slam, it's its own entity. I don't think it would gel well with the NWA, but I could be wrong. Sorry, guys. I'm starting to lose my voice, and this is we've already hit that 3:00 time period. So we're going to wrap it up here. Again, you can watch the NWA on the Roku app, Roku Sports, on Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and the replay at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific for this week's Power. You can watch it in demand as well. And on Wrestling Central, you can find the history of Billy Corgan's NWA. That content is available on that channel, along with WOW at Wrestling Central. We'll be back on Thursday to talk more about the NWA. We'll be covering this week's Power. We'll be talking about last week's Exodus Pro. What's up, man? You got here just in the nick of time for us to say goodbye. We're going to talk about the Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the NWA talents who have made that list of the top 500 wrestlers in the world. PWI's 500. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking also about this week's Power, and we'll be obviously reporting on any news and information coming out of the NWA with regards to Saw Win and some of these live events that are happening this weekend. So I appreciate you guys all hanging out with us today on this Tuesday. Have a great afternoon, evening, and we'll see you at the matches. Thank you for tuning in to the Alliance Blog Podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Join us every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Mondays as we talk about all things pro wrestling and the NWA. Follow us at YouTube at the Alliance Blog. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches.